Bonjour, Kennemak Inene Ireland Dishnikas, and welcome to this production of Social Studies Explorer. Today's episode, Chapter 5, Section 3, Taxation Without Representation. The Colonists Fight Back. We left off the last time with the Stamp Act and the colonists being none too happy about it. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the response of the colonists. Vocabulary includes tyranny, and that's when a leader treats people very unfairly and essentially kind of strips them of their rights. Treason is acting against one's government or aiding and abetting someone who's opposed to your government. And a boycott is saying, you know what, we're not going to buy that item for whatever political reason. The guided inquiry question is, how did the attitudes and beliefs of the colonial American people change toward Great Britain, and why? You'll see the phrase taxation without representation frequently. And if you happen to be driving somewhere near the Beltway, even on license plates to this day, you've seen it referenced in other classes, like our support coach. And it's the whole idea of wanting a say in the taxes that are levied against you. Patrick Henry spoke out against the Stamp Act. He made several speeches that helped inspire the colonists to protest against the tax. Henry was accused of treason by the British government for his strong opinions and inspirational speeches. By the way, the maximum penalty for treason is death. So it's no small thing to be accused of treason. It's not a guaranteed penalty, but that's what the maximum is, even to this day in the United States. The colonists band together to protest. They refused to pay the tax. Tax collectors were threatened. They burned the stamped paper in the streets. The colonists also boycotted British products. A group of colonists called the Sons of Liberty formed to protest against the Stamp Act. Sons of Liberty were groups of colonists that organized the protest against the British government. They used intimidation to get tax collectors to quit their jobs. Samuel Adams was a member of the Sons of Liberty in Boston. Adams wrote articles for Boston newspapers. He played a key role in rallying the colonists to oppose British taxation. He believed that the Stamp Act was a plot by the British to destroy the colonists' liberty. Let's take a minute to watch a brief video segment on the Sons of Liberty.
In 1765, the 13 British-owned American colonies were outraged. Great Britain had spent a lot of money on all the wars they fought and thought the American colonies should pay the bill. So all the way across the Atlantic Ocean in London, the British Parliament and King George III decided to impose a Stamp Act on the colonies. What this meant was that all pieces of paper used for official documents like birth certificates, land records, even newspapers had to have a British stamp on them, and that stamp cost money. The thing that made the colonists the most angry was the fact these taxes had been decided without anyone from the colonies present in Parliament to have a say in the matter. A group of colonists who called themselves the Sons of Liberty decided to do something about this unfair treatment. They refused to pay the tax and threatened the men assigned to collect it. King George III saw he had a problem, so he ended the stamp tax, but then decided to demand a tax on other things like glass, paper, lead, paint, and tea. Again, the colonists were furious, especially the Sons of Liberty, who led a movement to discourage colonists from buying any British-made goods. A group of women organized and called themselves the Daughters of Liberty. They refused to buy British-made cloth and made their own instead. Again, the king and parliament saw the problem and repealed or stopped the tax, but not the tax on English tea. They wanted to show the colonists Great Britain still had power to tax the colonies. In response, the colonists started drinking coffee and Danish imported tea, and in a bold move, the Sons of Liberty dressed up as Native Americans, crept on a British ship loaded with tea, and dumped 90,000 pounds of it in the Boston harbor. This was called the Boston Tea Party. These events, along with many others, caused the colonies to eventually declare independence from Great Britain, which started the Revolutionary War.
One of the leaders was Samuel Adams. The colonists felt so angry about the stamp tax that they gathered together representatives from 9 colonies and formed the Stamp Act Congress. They made a unified protest to Britain. They demanded that the tax be repealed. A year later, Parliament repealed the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act Congress gave these colonists a model for the Continental Congress. All right, a second portion of this is talking about political cartoons, and these are something that still exist. This is a skill that's also language arts based. Practice reading political cartoons. As you learned in the first chapter, political cartoons are cartoons that relate to political decisions, events, and ideas. They are an artist's way of expressing his or her opinion about a political situation. Political cartoons have played an important part in the history of the United States. Remember, political cartoons have 5 elements. The artist uses symbolism, exaggeration, labeling, analogy, and irony. The goal of a political cartoon is to send a clear message, using images that will be familiar to all people. The artist uses simple images that symbolize complex political concepts. On this page is a political cartoon drawn by Benjamin Wilson in 1776. The title of the drawing is The Repeal, or The Funeral of Miss Amstamp. This cartoon includes a funeral procession with people who supported the Stamp Act. They are carrying a small coffin that they are preparing to throw into an open vault. Vault has been prepared for the burial. Notice the setting of the funeral. There's a dock in the background. By placing a dock in the background, the artist is able to show the boycotted British goods that were supposed to go to the colonies in America. They were not shipped and left in their crates during the time period when the act was in force. The British Minister of Britain had a difficult time convincing Parliament that repealing or getting rid of the Stamp Act would be a good thing for the British government. To help sway public opinion, he asked the artist to make the cartoon. And political cartoons, like I said, still exist. Things as simple as the donkey and the elephant were part of political cartoons. And assuredly, we'll be seeing a little bit more when it comes to this topic throughout the year. At this point, you should return to the Google Classroom and complete the assignment. Have a minogijigad, minwa bamapi.